He lied about his income for years. And I believed him because he said it the way people say good night, soft, practiced, certain, like the words themselves were proof. It started with a laugh. Not a cruel laugh, a casual one. The kind that tells you the question is silly. "How much did you make this quarter?" I asked one Sunday morning, barefoot in our kitchen, coffee steaming, the news murmuring in the background. My husband Derek smiled over his mug and said, "Enough. We're good." We're good. That was always his answer. We're good. We're fine. Don't worry. And for a long time, I didn't. Because it's easier to let someone else carry the numbers when you're carrying everything else. School drop-offs, dentist appointments, groceries, birthday gifts, the constant invisible work of keeping a home running while you tell yourself the person you married would never make you unsafe. Then a bank alert landed on my phone at 8:06 a.m. on a rainy Tuesday in Bellevue. And the lie finally got loud enough that it couldn't hide behind his calm. Payroll verification. Request. Urgent. The subject line came from our mortgage lender, not Derek's employer, not his HR department, our lender. My stomach tightened, but I told myself it was routine. Refinances always triggered questions. We'd refinanced once before. Derek handled it. He always did. He loved handling it. He said it made him feel like a provider. I clicked the email. "Ms. Hart," it read. "We require updated income verification for Mr. Derek Hart. Our records indicate inconsistencies in reported earnings. Please contact us immediately." Inconsistencies. That word is what made my breath stall. Because inconsistent isn't a typo. Inconsistent is a pattern. And the legal and financial anchor of everything that followed happened right there, within the first minute of my day unraveling, because I realized the lender wasn't asking Derek. They were asking me. I stared at the email until the letters blurred. Then I walked into our bedroom and looked at him sleeping. Derek slept like a man who believed life would continue smoothing itself out for him. One arm flung over his head, face relaxed, phone charging on the nightstand with 2 missed calls from a number I didn't recognize. I didn't wake him. Not yet. I went to the living room, sat on the edge of the couch, and called the lender back. A woman answered, professional and clipped. "This is Naomi in underwriting. How can I help?" "I received an email about income verification," I said, keeping my voice calm. "Can you explain what you mean by inconsistencies?" A pause. Keyboard clicks. Then Naomi's tone shifted slightly, careful. "Mrs. Hart, your husband's stated income on the original application does not match the income reported on the supporting documents we received. We attempted to reach him. He hasn't responded." My fingers went cold around the phone. What income did he state? Naomi read the number. It was almost double what I thought Derek made. I swallowed hard. "That can't be right." Naomi didn't argue. "We need clarification. If the discrepancy isn't resolved, the loan file may be escalated for review." Escalated. Review. Those are clean words for messy consequences. I ended the call with my pulse steady but heavy, like my body had turned into a metronome. Then I opened my laptop. I logged into our joint bank account, the one Derek insisted was simple, the one he told me not to micromanage because it kills romance. I didn't want romance. I wanted facts. The deposits were there. His bi-weekly paycheck. Consistent. Predictable. But the amounts didn't match what he'd claimed on the refinance. Not even close. I checked older statements, thinking maybe he'd gotten a raise and never told me. Then I checked tax returns, the PDFs He always e-filed while I made dinner. And that's when the first real crack split open. The W-2 from his job wasn't for the number he'd told me. It was lower, a lot lower. And then, attached in the return packet, were two 109s from companies I had never heard of. One of them had paid him more than his entire salary. My mouth went dry. Because Derek worked for a software company in Redmond. He wore a badge. He commuted. He complained about meetings. That was his story. So what were these? Side gigs? Consulting? Or something else? I heard the bedroom door creak. Derek padded down the hall, stretching, yawning, looking like a man walking into an ordinary day. "Hey," he said, voice warm. "You're up early." I kept my face neutral. The lender called. He blinked. "Why?" "They said your income documents don't match," I said. Derek's smile held, but his eyes changed. A flicker. Then he laughed light. "Oh my God, it's probably nothing. Underwriters are annoying. I'll handle it." "I already spoke to them," I said quietly. His laugh stopped. "Why would you do that?" I held his gaze. "Because it's our mortgage." His jaw tightened, then softened into a practiced calm. "Babe, you don't need to get involved. It's just paperwork." Paperwork. That word always meant don't look. I slid my laptop toward him and pointed at the tax return. "What are these 1099s? I asked. For a fraction of a second, Derek froze. Then he leaned over, scanned, and shrugged like he was reading a grocery list. "Consulting," he said. "I told you I did some extra stuff." "You never told me," I replied. He sighed, irritated. "I didn't want to stress you out." I stared at him. "You made more on a 1099 than your salary." Derek's mouth tightened. "So?" "So the lender thinks you lied," I said. He waved a hand. "They don't get how commission works. It's fine." "Fine." Again. But his fingers were tapping the counter. Fast. Nervous. My stomach clenched. Because when a man says everything is fine while his body panics, the truth is usually bigger than the lie. That week, Derek became helpful. He started cooking dinner. He started packing lunches. He started offering to handle the kids' bedtime so I could relax. It would have been sweet if it hadn't felt like distraction. Because every time I opened my laptop, Derek appeared in the doorway. "What you doing?" he'd ask, casual. "Just work," I'd say, even when it wasn't. Because I realized something that made my skin prickle. I didn't know my own financial life, not fully, and that wasn't an accident. Escalation doesn't always arrive like a bomb. Sometimes it arrives like a slow tightening, small moments that start to connect. The next moment came on Friday, when I checked our credit card and saw a charge for a private mailbox service, paid annually, in Derek's name, a P.O. box. He'd never mentioned it. I asked him over dinner, keeping my tone light, "Why do we have a mailbox downtown?" Derek didn't even look up from his plate. "For packages, work stuff." "What packages?" I asked. He finally looked at me, eyes cool. "Why are you interrogating me?" I swallowed. "I'm asking." He leaned back, smile thin. "You're spiraling, Mara." Hearing my name in that tone, like I was a problem, made something inside me settle. Not anger, resolve. That night when he fell asleep, I did the thing I'd never done. I opened the file cabinet. Derek kept everything organized. He loved that word. Inside were neatly labeled folders, mortgage, insurance, taxes, and then a folder I'd never seen before, tucked behind old closing documents. It was labeled in black marker, payments. My throat tightened. I slid it out and opened it. Inside were printed receipts from cashier's checks, money orders, and wire confirmations. Some were in Derek's name, some were not. Amounts ranged from $5,000 to $19,000, always just under $20,000. And the payees? Northbridge Solutions, Sunline Processing, Evergreen Holdings, names designed to sound harmless. But patterns don't lie. Neither do amounts. People who are honest don't structure transactions to stay under thresholds unless they're trying to avoid attention. My hands shook as I took photos, one page at a time. Then I found the page that made me feel like the floor had tilted. A deposit slip for an account in my name, not our joint account, mine. A business account at a bank I had never used. Merahart Consulting, LLC. LLC. In my name. My stomach turned. I didn't have an LLC. I didn't consult. I worked full-time at a healthcare group and volunteered at the PTA. That was my life. So why was my name on a business account? And why were payments being deposited into it? I felt cold run down my arms, because this wasn't just Derek exaggerating his income. This was Derek using my identity. The next morning, I didn't confront him. I did what fear begged me not to do. I called a lawyer. Her name was Vanessa Park. Seattle. Calm voice. Eyes that didn't flinch when I said the words out loud. I think my husband opened a company in my name, I said. Vanessa didn't gasp. Do you have documentation? She asked. I have copies, I said. Receipts, deposits, an LLC name. Good, she replied. Then we moved fast, quietly. Quietly. That word felt like oxygen. Vanessa told me to do 3 things immediately. Freeze my credit, file a report with the FTC identity theft portal, contact the bank where the LLC account existed, but only after she sent a preservation letter. Why preservation? I asked. Because people like your husband don't just lie, Vanessa said. They erase. That afternoon, Vanessa sent letters to 3 banks listed on the receipts, demanding preservation of logs, device fingerprints, IP addresses, and account opening documents. She also filed an emergency motion in family court to restrain Derek from transferring or dissipating assets. When Derek got served, he didn't explode. He smiled. That was the part that terrified me. He came home, envelope in hand, and said in a calm voice, "You're really doing this?" I kept my voice steady. "I need the truth." Derek shook his head slowly. "Mara, you're going to ruin us." "I'm trying to protect us," I said. He laughed soft. "From what?" "Your imagination?" Then he leaned closer, voice low. "Listen to me. If you keep pushing, you're going to pull yourself into things you don't understand." Threat. Not loud. Clear. My skin went cold. Vanessa told me to stop speaking to him without documentation. So I didn't. The days that followed were a blur of controlled panic. School drop-offs, work meetings, and nights spent scanning papers while Derek moved through the house, like a man waiting for me to break. The lender's underwriter called again. This time, the tone was colder. "Mrs. Hart," Naomi said, "our compliance team needs to speak with your husband. There are concerns about misrepresentation. If fraudulent documents were used, the file may be referred." Referral. That word again. It changes everything. I forwarded the email to Vanessa. Vanessa replied with one sentence. "Good. Now we have leverage." Escalation arrived from Derek's family next. His mother, Lorraine, called me from an unknown number. "You're embarrassing him," she said, voice sweet and sharp. "Derek is a provider. He works so hard for you. I kept my tone calm. This call is being recorded, I said. Silence. Then Lorraine hissed. You little... Continue, I said softly. Please. She hung up. Threats are evidence, if you're smart enough to keep them. Then Derek tried a different tactic. He offered me a new story. He sat at the kitchen table with 2 mugs of tea, like a therapy session had been scheduled. I didn't want to tell you, he said softly, because I was ashamed. Ashamed. It sounded almost believable. I had a side venture, he continued. It went badly. I borrowed money. I tried to fix it. Fix. That word again. He reached for my hand. I was going to make it right before you ever knew. I pulled my hand back. Why is there an LLC in my name? I asked. Derek's eyes flicked. It's just paperwork. For taxes. My accountant suggested it. My accountant? I repeated. He sighed. Our accountant. I stared at him. You used my identity. His voice sharpened. It's not identity theft if we're married. That sentence, so confident, so wrong, made my stomach twist, because he believed it. He believed marriage was consent. He believed my life was a tool. Vanessa filed a motion compelling full financial disclosure and forensic accounting. Derek's attorney responded with outrage, accusing me of paranoia and harassment. Vanessa didn't react emotionally. She requested subpoenas. When the subpoenas hit, the truth started bleeding out in numbers Derek couldn't charm away. A forensic accountant named Miguel Santos traced the 1099 income Derek claimed. It wasn't consulting. It was pass-through payments from payment processors tied to unlicensed wagering and gray market subscription services. Money in, money out, always under thresholds, always routed through entities with bland names. And the LLC in my name was the funnel. Miguel found the account opening documents. They included my social security number, my signature, a signature I never wrote, a digital signature created on a device registered to Derek's email. When Vanessa showed me the packet, my mouth went dry. He forged me, I whispered. Vanessa's eyes stayed steady. Yes, she said, and now we prove it. The twist landed fully when Miguel discovered why Derek had lied about income for years. It wasn't just ego. It was strategy. Derek had been reporting a lower W-2 salary to me, while inflating income to lenders, because he needed debt, he needed credit, he needed leverage. He'd been opening lines, cards, and accounts using the image of a high-earning husband, while keeping his real taxable income low to avoid scrutiny and support obligations. He wasn't just lying to me. He was lying to systems, and systems keep records. When the bank's risk investigator called, his voice was calm, professional. Ms. Hart, he said, we have concerns that your identity was used to open an account and route funds. We need to clarify your knowledge. I steadied my breath. You can speak to my attorney, I said, relief in his pause. Thank you, he replied. Please have her contact us. Vanessa did. Within a week, the bank froze the LLC account and issued a letter stating it was under investigation for suspected identity compromise. My employer's legal team received it and closed my file. Derek didn't take the suspension quietly. He tried to replace money with noise. First, he sent texts that swung between guilt and rage. I'm sorry. I panicked. You're blowing this up. Think about what this does to my parents. You always wanted control. I didn't answer. Then his sister emailed my workplace from a brand new address, claiming I was targeting the family trust and manipulating banks. My company counsel forwarded it to Vanessa without even asking me a question. And that was when I understood the difference between panic and protection. Protection is when other professionals see the pattern and close the door for you. Derek's attorney also filed a new motion accusing me of leaking confidential information to the bank. Vanessa responded with one exhibit, the lender's first email addressed to me, dated before any court filing. "Your Honor," she wrote, "she didn't leak. The bank knocked on her door." The judge denied Derek's motion without a hearing. Derek's calm turned into desperation. He showed up at the house one evening, standing at the edge of the driveway, like he wanted to look harmless, voice soft, as if softness could undo a paper trail. "Mara," he said, "can we just talk?" I kept the porch light between us and my phone in my hand. "Talk through counsel," I replied. His eyes sharpened. "You're really going to do this," he whispered. "I'm really going to protect myself," I said. He took one step forward. "If you keep cooperating," he said low, "you'll get dragged into every agency that looks at this. IRS, state, everyone. You think Vanessa can stop that?" I felt my stomach tighten, not because the threat worked, but because he was telling on himself. Only someone guilty tries to weaponize investigations. I lifted my phone slightly. "Say that again," I said. He froze, then backed away like he'd touched something hot. The next day, Vanessa filed the recording as supplemental evidence and requested that the injunction include a no-contact provision, except for logistics through a monitored app. Granted. And just like that, Derek lost another tool. He couldn't corner me. He couldn't pressure me in person. He couldn't pretend we were fine in a private conversation and then deny it later. All he had left was paper, and paper was where he always lost. A few days after the no-contact order, a certified letter arrived from the trust administrator. Not emotional, not angry, administrative. It stated that Derek's distributions were suspended pending a good standing review, and that any attempt to interfere with the court's information requests could be treated as a violation of trust terms. Derek's father's attorney called Vanessa within hours. He wanted discretion. He wanted family privacy. He wanted the record sealed. Vanessa's response was calm. "My client didn't create this record," she said. "Your beneficiary did." That call mattered because it showed me something. The people Derek feared weren't the courts. They were his own family, the ones who funded his image and punished anyone who threatened it. And when their funding stopped, Derek stopped smiling. He started sending messages through his attorney instead, each one softer, each one more urgent, offering concessions he would have mocked a month earlier. The tone wasn't love, it was arithmetic. Without trust money, every hour of litigation cost him more than pride. And once the bank had logs and the court had affidavits, his favorite weapon, confusion, stopped working. That was when I realized my calm wasn't bravery. It was simply clarity finally beating fear. Today. My name stayed clean. Derek's didn't, because as soon as the trust administrator began sending records to the court, Derek's parents' attorney contacted Vanessa. A formal letter, cold tone, demanding confidentiality, threatening defamation if family matters were discussed. Vanessa read it and smiled slightly. "Good," she said. "Now they're nervous." Derek's family had money. Money doesn't always win, but it always tries. They offered a settlement that looked generous on paper, a lump sum, a car, a promise to resolve peacefully. But buried in the language was the same demand Derek had made in his voicemail. Silence. No cooperation with any investigation. No sharing of records, no further subpoenas. A mutual non-disparagement clause with penalties. Vanessa tapped the clause with her pen. "They're buying quiet," she said. "And if I refuse?" I asked. Vanessa's eyes held mine. "Then you keep your name," she replied, "and you keep your freedom." Freedom. That word sounded like something I'd forgotten I was allowed to want. The final escalation came in the ugliest way. Derek's mother showed up at my workplace. Not the lobby, the parking lot. She waited by my car like she belonged there. Expensive coat, pearls, chin lifted. I froze for half a second, then kept walking, because fear feeds them. She smiled when I approached, as if we were old friends. "Mara," she said softly, "this is getting messy." I didn't stop. "You need to leave," I said. Her smile tightened. "We can make this easier," she said. "Derek has made mistakes, but you don't need to be the kind of woman who destroys a family." I stared at her. "I didn't destroy anything," I said. "Your son did." Her eyes sharpened. "You think you're protected?" she whispered. "My husband knows people. Your employer, your licenses, your reputation. It's delicate." I pulled my phone out and held it up. "This is being recorded," I said calmly. She blinked, then recovered too quickly. "Of course," she said, voice syrupy. "Record. Show everyone how unstable you are." Unstable. Another label. I met her gaze. "Leave," I said again. She stepped closer. "Sign the agreement," she hissed, "or we make sure everyone knows what you did with that LLC." There it was, the threat tied directly to the fraud. Evidence. I let her speak for another 5 seconds, then walked past her without another word. In my office, I forwarded the audio to Vanessa. Vanessa filed a motion for an expanded protective order that included Derek's parents as third-party harassers. And she sent the recording to Reyes, because intimidation connected to financial misconduct is a pattern. The power reversal arrived in layers, the way real reversals do. First, the court granted the expanded protective order. Second, the trust administrator, under court order, suspended Derek's discretionary distributions pending good standing review, citing the scandal clause. Derek's monthly lifeline, gone. Third, Derek's attorney suddenly requested mediation, urgent, desperate. They didn't want discovery anymore. They wanted closure, because without trust money, Derek couldn't fund the fight. And without credibility, he couldn't win it. In mediation, Derek sat across from me in a bland room with beige walls and stale coffee. He looked smaller, not physically, internally. He tried one last time to use his voice like a tool. "Mara," he said quietly, "I never meant for it to go this far." I didn't respond. He swallowed. "I loved you," he added. That line, late, felt like a key being offered after the door was burned down. Vanessa slid a folder across the table. "Here are the terms," she said. The terms were simple, clean, and final. Derek would concede the house and any claim to my retirement. He would reimburse all attorney's fees and forensic costs. He would sign a stipulated order acknowledging he opened and controlled the LLC account under my identity and that I had no knowledge or consent. He would agree to a permanent injunction against using my information. He would produce a sworn affidavit detailing all income streams, including trust distributions and 1,099 payments for the prior 5 years. And he would waive any clause attempting to restrict my cooperation with investigations. No silence, just accountability. Derek's attorney balked. Vanessa didn't blink. "We can litigate," she said calmly, "and we can keep subpoenaing, or we can resolve." Derek stared at the papers, hands trembling slightly. Finally, he whispered, "If I sign this, my parents will cut me off." Vanessa's voice stayed flat. "That's not Mara's problem," she said. Derek looked up at me with a desperate softness. "Please," he said. I met his eyes and kept my voice low. "You lied about income for years," I said. "You used my name. You threatened me when I noticed. I'm done paying for your secrets." His face collapsed. He signed. The final court date was almost anticlimactic. The judge reviewed the stipulation, the affidavit, the protective order, and the bank letter. Then he looked at me and said, "Ms. Hart, do you understand and accept these terms?" "Yes," I said. He looked at Derek. "Mr. Hart?" Derek's voice was barely audible. "Yes." The judge nodded and entered the orders. Exclusive possession, permanent, fee award, entered as judgment, injunction, entered, affidavit, filed. And then, quietly, the judge added, "This court appreciates the cooperation with financial institutions. Any ongoing inquiries may proceed with these findings." When I walked out of that courthouse, the air felt different, not joyful, clear, like the world had snapped back into focus after years of being slightly blurred. Derek had lied about his income because he thought the lie would keep him safe. Safe from recalculated support, safe from trust scrutiny, safe from consequences, safe from being seen. But the truth doesn't care what you're afraid of. It cares what you did. And once the paper trail exists, calm voices stop working. Months later, a letter arrived from Reyes's department. Not dramatic. Just confirmation that my documentation had been received, that my identity was noted as compromised by a third party, and that I was not considered a subject of investigation. I read it twice, then set it down and felt something in my chest loosen for the first time in a long time. That night I walked through my house slowly. The same walls, the same floors, the same windows. But it didn't feel like a stage for someone else's story anymore. It felt like mine. He lied about his income for years, and the lie wasn't just about money. It was about power. Because when one person controls the numbers, they control the choices. They control what you think you can afford, what you think you deserve, what you think you're allowed to question. Derek thought I'd never check. He thought I'd stay grateful for his provider performance and ignore the way my stomach tightened every time he said, "We're good." But being good isn't a feeling. It's a record. And when the record finally showed itself, the lie didn't break me. The confusion did. And then the confusion ended. Now, when someone tells me we're fine, I don't accept the word. I check, I read, I verify. Because the moment you stop trusting your own questions is the moment someone else starts spending your life like it's theirs.